It's the first week of October, 2024, which means the balloons are here in Albuquerque, but it also means it's time to look at the previous month and what happened with real estate in the Albuquerque area. It's Tego Venturi, Venturi Group, where I do this every month and we break down what is going on with the real estate market. Some interesting trends that have happened. And I'm going to go through all the data here right now: supply, demand, prices, mortgage rates, and a couple little insights that I've picked up here of looking at the data. So let's jump into it. Just to break down what we're looking at here first, we're looking at the Albuquerque metropolitan area. So that's all 4 counties, and that is all single family, detached, and attached homes. So basically all single family homes in the Albuquerque MLS. And that's pretty much every home that is sold, not necessarily all new construction, but a good portion of them. So we're looking at closed sales, and for September, we had 766 closed sales. That's down 8.5% from 1 year ago, September. And you can look at the graph here, and you can see from August to September, we had a pretty good drop. And again, year over year, it has declined. We definitely felt it, I think, from an anecdotal standpoint here on our real estate team and talking to other realtors in the market. It's just slow. There's not as many transactions happening. But there's some interesting news I'm going to get to here in a second. All right, I'll get to it right now, which is pending data. September was really strong. Pending data showed a really big jump in the number of people interested in purchasing homes. So it jumped to 910 pendings for September. It's a 25.5% increase from September last year. And it's actually a jump from August to September. We had an increase from 3 pendings in August to 910. The thing that jumps out about that's very unusual for this time of year, generally we'll see the seasonal pattern, and you can see in this chart, generally we have May, June, April, May, June, generally June, July, kind of in that area where we have the peak number of pending sales, homes going under contract, and then usually just starts dropping off all the way through, like I'm looking at 2022 here, through December, January. Maybe if we go back to a more traditional year like 2019, we had our peak in April and then in June again, or July, excuse me, and then it dropped through till December, which is very common. So what happens, we normally see, let me show you this other chart here that I made, is we'll see, so these red lines that we're looking at are September, and we can see that August, September, every year, this is going back to 2014. Well, this year, not so much. It was almost equal. But we generally see a drop from August to September, August, September, August here, and then September. However, this year, we look at 2024, we went from August, September, we had an increase. The question is, was that the mortgage rates? And I think the consensus is yes, we had a really good move in mortgage rates. Unfortunately, we got to talk about mortgage rates. As of today, so I got to find the right chart here. As of today, which is Friday the 4th, there was a big jump up in mortgage rates. What happened was, when we go back to a year ago, we were at 8%. Midsummer, it moved back up to 7.5%. And then since really early summer, this was April, it's been dropping. We've had some spikes down. But then over the last 3 weeks, starting early September, we've been in the low 6% range for mortgage rates nationwide. The thing that's crazy about it, the lowest number we had was the day before the Fed announced the 50 basis point cut in the Fed rate. But since then, mortgage rates have been going up. And as of today, which again, it's Friday the 4th, rates jumped up a 1/4 point today, unfortunately. Pretty frustrating. And that had to do with good news on employment, which means the economy is still strong. So strong economy means high mortgage rates. And I'm not going to get in the weeds too far on that, but right now mortgage rates are back in that 6.5 range as of now. And as you can see, it changes all the time. So we'll see how that shakes out. All right, let's jump back to the data. Prices. I know that's what everybody wants to know. What happened with home prices in Albuquerque? We look at median sale prices, and let's jump over to September. 341,500. Again, that's a middle range. That's that middle point between all the homes that sold in September. And 341,000. That is not the high point. The high point was actually last month at basically 365,000. Again, this is a blend of both detached and attached homes. Lower if it's the attached and higher if it's the attached. But I just wanted to give you an idea overall. But when we look at down 1.6% from September last year. So does that mean home prices have dropped year over year? Well, I don't think so. And I'll give you the reason why is because we're just looking at median, could be smaller homes. But if we look at the median price per square foot that eliminates some of that square footage variable, we're looking at a 3% increase from September of last year. So it's now $208 per square foot in September. Again, that's off the high, which was actually in June of this year at 211, and now we're at 208. So we are getting that seasonal slowdown. You can see in 22 from May through January, we had a pretty significant seasonal downturn. And then in 23 as well, we had our peak in August, and then it pulled back to January. Very common, and I would expect to see this number this year do the same thing. But year over year, I'm going to say only 3%, which is lower than our long-term average, which is more like 4%. But still, there is some appreciation there. It's just not as crazy as we had back in 20, 21, 22 in particular. A couple other things I want to point out, and then we can wrap this up. Month supply of inventory, though this is our ratio of homes in the market versus homes going off the market. We're at 2.4 months supply, which would be considered a seller's market. Generally, less than 5 months supply is considered a seller's market, but it's not across all price ranges. And so I'm going to show you that. This is actually on our website. I've got this chart up here, and you can take a look. Get out of the way. So in this light blue, this is month supply of inventory across all price ranges, and that's that 2.4 month supply. That's up from last year, so definitely more supply on the market, up 26%. However, if we break it down, if we look at this yellow, which is the 250 to 400,000 price range, 1.8 months supply, and under 200, even less, 1.4 months supply. We get up over 600,000, we're at this 4.4 month supply. So it really depends on what market you're in. And I think I talked about this last month. Same thing. The higher end homes, the higher price homes, 600,000 and above, considered our luxury market. Taking a little longer to sell, a little more supply versus the demand that's out there. But in the lower price points, we're still seeing strong demand and limited supply for the most part. You can dig into all of this. In fact, let me scroll up here. This is on our website at welcomehomeabq.com, and I've got all the market stats on here. Here's our website. Under market, I've got the monthly update. I also have the weekly tracker. If you really want to nerd out on housing data, you can check on that, and that'll give you an update of what's happening every single week. It's updated over the weekend, so go check that out. There's a lot of data on this page, and it'll break down inventory, new listings, how many came back on the market for a week, and so on. Not going to go through it in detail here, but just to know that it is there. Thanks for watching. If you got any questions about Albuquerque real estate, you can reach out to us. We're the Venturi Group at Real Broker, and we're at 505-448-88. Take care.